Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into an intense exercise in mathematical survival. We're looking at the economic squeeze facing low-income households in Pakistan right now. It's a situation where literally every single rupee has a job before it's even earned. So let's break down the data and see what this precarious balancing act actually looks like when you're trying to meet basic needs with absolutely no financial safety net.
Okay, so 40,000 Pakistani rupees. That is the single finite monthly salary we are tracking today. Now, for this explainer, we aren't looking at variables or side hustles. We're looking at a fixed, hard ceiling. 40,000 PKR is the entire pool of resources available for a whole month. And, once it's gone, it is completely gone. What makes that number truly staggering is the immense pressure placed on it. Because we aren't just talking about a single professional here, or even a couple. The data center's on a multi-generational household. That's typically up to 6 people under one roof. Husband, wife, children, and elderly parents, all relying entirely on this 140,000 PKR salary. Just think about the sheer logistics of feeding, housing, and caring for 3 whole generations with a single highly constrained income stream. It's wild.
Moving into Section 1, let's look at the weight of basic necessities. Let's start the month and see how that 40,000 begins to aggressively shrink. When we break down the estimated outgoings against that fixed income, the math gets stark pretty fast. There's no room for discretionary spending yet. We're strictly talking about keeping the lights on and keeping the family fed. The electricity bill immediately claims somewhere between 6,000 to 10,000 PKR. Gas adds another 1,500 to 3,000. But the real heavy hitter here is the household ration. The groceries required to feed a multi-generational family. That alone demands a staggering 18,000 to 25,000 PKR. If we look at the high end of those estimates, the picture becomes incredibly clear. Groceries become the largest expense by far, and when combined with utility bills, they consume almost the entire pie. Listen to this. If groceries hit that 25,000 mark and utilities hit 13,000, that's 38,000 PKR bond. You're left with just 2,000 PKR for the entire rest of the month, for 6 people. Which brings us to Section 2, the cost of working. See, simply earning this money comes with a heavy, unavoidable price tag of its own. Up to 10,000 PKR is eaten up by petrol alone, just for the daily office commute. If you look back at our total budget of 40,000, that is a massive chunk of change dedicated solely to transportation. This means securing that 40,000 PKR income actively drains up to a quarter of it right out of the gate. High petrol prices make this commute incredibly costly, and when public transport just isn't a viable option, the earner really has no choice but to absorb the hit. And that puts the rest of the family's survival budget in an immediate deficit. And that leads right into Section 3, unpredictable and hidden costs. We've looked at the fixed planned costs, but what happens when real life intrudes? Think about this for a second. What happens when unexpected guests arrive? In many parts of Pakistan, welcoming guests is a deeply ingrained cultural expectation. It's not really something you can easily opt out of. But how does a struggling family suddenly absorb an extra 2,000 to 5,000 PKR for the expected tea, snacks, and meals? That money has to come from somewhere, and as we just saw, the budget is already empty. And honestly, guests are just the beginning. The source points out the glaring difference between a planned month and an emergency month. A planned month is already practically impossible, but throw in a sudden medical issue for the elderly parents, or maybe unexpected school expenses for the kids, or a vital home repair, the budget instantly shatters. There is literally zero margin for error in this 40,000 PKR constraint.
Let's move to Section 4, the zero savings trap.
This constant, unpredictable drain leads us directly to this severe psychological toll of this financial balancing act. As the source outlines, the month becomes this draining cycle of financial anxiety. First, you're locked into living from one salary to the exact next. Second, there's this constant low-level stress hovering over the household about simply paying the utility bills on time before the services are cut off. And finally, the ultimate reality is that there's absolutely zero financial cushion. Saving money for the future isn't just difficult for this family, it's mathematically impossible. To merely survive the month, the family is forced to make severe, compounding sacrifices. The source notes a deeply reduced quality of life. This means actively cutting back on any new clothing, completely eliminating recreation, and most concerningly of all, compromising on nutritious food. When the budget falls short, it's often the quality and nutritional value of the meals that takes the hit first. And that directly affects the health of both the growing kids and the elderly parents.
Finally, we reach Section 5, the squeeze of inflation.
As we look at the end of the month, we have to confront the invisible enemy that makes a bad situation so much worse over time, and that's rising inflation. Inflation ensures that even if this family maintains perfect, flawless budgeting discipline, their actual buying power is actively shrinking. The 40,000 PKR might stay exactly the same on the paycheck, but the amount of electricity, gas, and groceries it can actually secure diminishes month after month. That creates a state of constant, escalating financial pressure. There's a powerful quote from the source material that perfectly captures the quiet desperation of a multi-generational household trapped in this economic squeeze. It simply says, income stays the same, but expenses keep rising. It's a concise summary of a systemic problem that traps families in a cycle of poverty, regardless of how hard they work or how carefully they budget. I want to leave you with this provocative thought. When the math practically guarantees a deficit, how long can a multi-generational household sustain this impossible balancing act against rising inflation? The data we've explored today shows us the stark reality for countless families navigating this exact same exhausting math every single month. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you a clearer, structured understanding of the numbers behind the struggle. Keep questioning the data, and I'll catch you in the next one.